What's up, Jacob?
Hey, what's going on?
Where are you right now?
Uh, Starbucks.
You just get done. Training.
We actually got done. We did about an hour and a half worth of boxing in the barn. And I'm taking a break, hanging out with you, and then I'm gonna go back and mow my humongous property with a mower. So it's a great day.
Yeah. You said you just got done boxing in the barn. So let's talk boxing. So big fight coming
Mm.
up September 18th, I believe, right?
So it's kind of confusing. It's either the 17th or the 18th. I think it might be the 17th, and I'm not sure because they moved it to Dubai
Mm-hmm.
because of the time difference or what. But you have to double check for me. But it's either the 17th or the 18th. And it should be. You'll be able to watch it stateside. Usually around nighttime. So
Mm-hmm.
Josh and I will probably be boxing around noon or something like that. That way you can get it live at a good hour for yourself to watch.
So you're boxing Josh Bridges. So how did that come about? Obviously, the whole point of that was him and Dave Dave Castro were going back and forth about having a charity boxing match. You know, depending on who you ask, something fell through. So how did you end up taking that place of Dave Castro?
Well, I mean, I think the way you look at it is like as soon as you could put Dave Castro in the ring with literally anyone, and everyone in the CrossFit community is gonna root for the other guy. It doesn't matter who it is. Like we're all gonna be like, yeah, beat up Dave. Like it was I think it was a lose-lose for Dave. Obviously, I love Dave
Mm-hmm.
a weird sort of way. He's just a good guy. But he didn't take it for some unknown reason, whatever his reasons were. I mean, it's totally fine. Like in my mind, he has nothing to prove, right? And like no one's gonna wear a Team Castro shirt ever. And so they offered it. So after Dave turned it down, it was originally going to be a charity match, and then when Half Thor and Eddie created this idea of boxing, right? They created a card because they made the card. They were the title card. They created a card that was non-boxers boxing, and so I think Josh's managers or manager Cooper and a couple guys realized there was an opportunity there for putting other athletes on the card that aren't per se boxers by trade. Let's take different people from all over and just try it out and just see, it could be fun. And so that's when Dave and Josh got involved. Dave obviously turned it down for whatever reason. And they offered it to another male CrossFit Games athlete who turned it down because focusing on the game some more. I mean, let's get real. Like, I can't do CrossFit Games and boxing at the same time. It just would never have worked. And so that gentleman turned it down. And then I was, third, was it third time's a charm? I was a third choice. So here I am.
Yeah. Um, you talk about the changes in the venue and the location. That kind of came suddenly. Right after the games, it kind of happened right after the games.
Yep.
And you kind of had a weird adventure in terms of how you're going to make it to Dubai. Talk about that in terms of getting that passport and
Yeah.
the help you got.
So originally it was going to be Vegas, right? So that was the first discussion when they first called me and they're like, yo, Jacob, you want to box Bridges? And I'm like, is this a prank phone call? And they're like, no, we're being
Who
dead
are you?
serious. I'm like, you're who are you? Like, I'm not boxing Bridges. And it was going to be in Vegas. And then I think something to do with the fact that, number one, I'm not an amateur, right? I don't even have a boxing license whatsoever. Neither does Josh. I believe Half Thor actually does, and maybe Eddie too, because they've done a couple matches now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But the rest of us don't. And so because of that, the gaming commission, I think, wasn't going to allow it. So we moved it to Jacksonville, Florida. Still a great place. But then because of the Delta variant coming back a little bit more, the company that was putting on the fight is out of Dubai. And it was a good decision, but their decision making, I think, was we can't control the venue in Florida. And even though that state in of itself probably won't cancel anything, we don't know and we can't predict that. And we're not from there. So
Sure.
they decided, look, let's just cancel it now. Let's take it now. Let's move it to a place we can control around us. I think they have a headquarters there because they're a fight company, so I'm sure they do. And so they're like, let's put it homegrown, hometown, and let's fly everyone out to Dubai. And so that was why it was moved to Dubai. And so that happened, gosh, like they called me like 2 weeks ago and they're like, we're moving to Dubai. And I'm like, cool. I got my passport stolen. Gosh, I had my passport stolen a couple weeks before that. And I was in no rush to get it because I didn't need it, right?
Yeah.
And so I was in no rush to deal with all that stupid paperwork, as we all hate. And so they're like, we're moving to Dubai. And I'm like, well, I got to get a stinking passport. And so luckily, I have a friend of a friend who's a current U.S. representative, Madison Cawthorn,
Mhm.
who people love to hate. But hey, you're a politician. Your life's on a billboard. People love to
Exactly.
hate politicians, regardless of what side of political field you're on. I mean, in my mind, like, if my whole life was put on a billboard where you could see everything Jacob Heppner has said and done, you probably hate me too. Like, everyone would hate everyone. So, anyways, he reached out. He was like, bro, I got you. I'll get you into a passport agency. We'll get you a passport just in time. I was like, thank you so much. So, finally got my passport, flew out to Atlanta, got it really quick. And so I'm good to go. I'm good to go to Dubai. First time.
Wow. So, obviously you retired from CrossFit. So, I mean, I don't know what your plans were, but then this happened. So you started you started to have to train again. So how's training from boxing training? I mean, obviously it's different than CrossFit, but how's it affected you?
Yeah, so we originally had made the decision to back up a little bit. We had originally, like, 2020 was a rough year, right? Like, are we
Yeah.
going to have the games? We're not going to have the games.
Mhm.
Like, and then it was just like up in the air. Like, what am I training for? It was just super long, and any games athlete will tell you that. It was just, just got drug out. And so I kind of lost that passion a little bit. And so in October of 2020, I was like, you know what? I talked to my wife because, my wife's only known me competing in CrossFit. Like that's a
Mhm.
staple part of our marriage, right?
Sure.
And like we got married and flew to the CrossFit Games in 2014. That was my honeymoon for years. And so like that was us. And I was like, hey, I think I'm done. And so we had to sit down and have couple long discussions about, okay, well, being done competing in CrossFit, what other opportunities exist in the space? Because, look, I'm not gonna stop competing in CrossFit and just walk out. Like that would just be stupid. Like this sport has given me so much, so many people I've met, so many opportunities. Like I'd be stupid to just walk out on it.
Mhm.
So we spent about a month to 2 months kind of thinking, okay, what are some things I can get involved in with coaching athletes and commentating prospectively and concepts like that. And then we were on vacation, and like in January or so, and that's when they called me. They're like, "You want a box?" And I was like, "This is perfect. Like I can't do both. It was just going to be impossible." And so I hadn't at the time stopped not working out. Like that's who I am. It wasn't games
Sure.
training, and so we pivoted from there to boxing, and that's kind of been the focus of the past. I mean, I've pretty much only been boxing for about 6 months.
Wow.
And that's been the main focus. We still do CrossFit classes at night in the barn, because of Olivia, my teenage
Mhm.
athlete, and the group I have. But I don't honestly lift as heavy anymore. I don't lift as much. I try not to lift as much because muscle slows you down. I need to be fast. But
Like a cheetah.
yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of, back to your question, there's a lot of differences. The two big things I noticed right off the bat is I rolled into the gym and they were like, the coach that I work with knew who I was or who I had been at CrossFit. Like I'd been a perennial games athlete and was considered one of the fittest on earth, a top 10 for many years. And so they were like, okay, you obviously think you're fit. And that my answer is, of course, yeah, of course I think
Sure.
I'm fit. And he was like, you're not this kind of shape. And I'm like, oh God, this is going to suck, right? And it did. It's just a whole different ballgame. The two biggest pieces that I noticed right off the bat that are different than CrossFit. Number one is if I see you squat, one of the biggest cues I'm going to give you is stay on your heels, or in your heels, wall balls, squatting,
Mhm.
cleaning, what you name it, right? There's not many movements we're on our toes other than literally double unders, right? Or extension.
Yeah.
And boxing is so toes folks, so quick movement, so moving side to side. And so much is, I mean, if I'm on my heels, if I get hit, I'm falling backwards. Like I'm hitting the ring, I'm falling backwards, I'm getting knocked out, whatever the case may be. And so that was a big learning piece for me where I was like, man, this is so different. The other one was being tense, right? Like if I go in the ring and you and me are boxing, like the more I'm up here is the more energy I'm wasting shrugging and keeping my traps
Mhm.
high. Well, but if you and I are doing CrossFit, like if I'm like, hey, we're going to do Fran or Isabel or whatever, when you step into a bar, you pull those shoulders back, you're locked in, you're tight, you're ready to lift, you're protecting your spine, protecting your body. Totally different. Like you put on gloves and I'm like getting so tired so fast. But learning that was a little bit difficult. And that's come over time. But overall, it's been a freaking awesome learning experience. I mean, I will say my conditioning from CrossFit did not carry over to boxing, but boxing conditioning has carried over to CrossFit. So if you put me in a workout that's like 3 minutes on, 1 minute off, we're money. It feels great just body weight wise because you know it's a lot of conditioning.
Have you found yourself? Did you lose much weight between? I mean, and your body shape. Have you noticed a lot of differences?
Yeah, honestly, I don't. Like you don't notice much in your kids because you're around them every single day,
Sure.
kind of thing. I never noticed it, but my wife did. I remember at least 1 month in, she likes me being a little bit thicker and heavier because that was my CrossFit build.
Yeah.
And she's like, "You're losing weight. I don't like this." I'm like, I was like, "Babe, it's gonna happen." Like, it's not like I'm like trying to cut weight running with a sweatsuit on. It's just so much, 2 hours worth of conditioning hitting a bag and so much body weight other than like 60, 12-ounce gloves or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so much moving conditioning that it's just going to naturally just get shed off after time. So yeah, we've lost, I don't know what I'm at now, but I normally am at two something, 205, 200 depends.
Mhm.
And I think we're at like at 190, 188, just depends on the day and what kind of coffee I'm drinking.
Well, you're just not only training for boxing. Obviously one of the first things you did is you competed in a couple of tactical games type of events, and you actually got invited to the actual tactical games. I guess is it the championships, or is it just called tactical games? Or
Yeah, there's national championships. How it works is pretty similar to CrossFit. It You have events all around the continental United States, and if you place like top 3 in any of them, you automatically get an invite to go to nationals in Texas in November. Very similar to like a semifinal. Um,
Mhm.
or actually, it's very similar to the sanctional concept because you can go to as
Gotcha.
many of these events around the nation as you
Oh, the
want until you
qualifier.
qualify. Yeah,
Mhm.
and then it also rolls down. So if I go and first place guy already qualified and I'm fourth, I get an invite because it rolls down past the guy. So pardon me. So yeah, that was kind of the first thing I knew once I was done competing in CrossFit. Like I'm not gonna finish competing and then I'm gonna stay involved in CrossFit, but I'm not gonna compete. But I have a competitive nature, so I'm not gonna take it into my marriage or take it into the workplace, whatever. Like that's not healthy, right?
Yeah.
And so I need something to compete in, and because that's who I am. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm good at fitness, pretty decent at fitness. And I enjoy the concept of firearms and learning something new. And so for me, that was a good mixture of who I was. And so we got involved in that pretty quickly and have honestly, the community is very similar in that sport to
Mhm.
CrossFit. It's a very similar sport. And so I've thoroughly enjoyed the people in that sport that have went out of their way to help me out, spend time with me, teach me, and just teach me the ropes pretty much. The ropes.
Explain how the tactical games is, I guess maybe what it's taught in you in terms of handling a firearm, or especially since there might be a misconception in the community, especially the CrossFit community, about what the tactical games is about. I mean, explain, that it's just not about just shooting and blowing up things.
Yeah, yeah. So most people, unfortunately, and some of that is just due to, when you watch movies, violent movies, people just think that, John Wick grabs a gun and John Wick shoots people, right? Like
Yeah.
you don't see the years of John Wick for a bad. This is a really bad example. We're just gonna roll with it though. You
Sure.
don't really see
Sure.
the years of John Wick practicing safety firearm manipulation. And so I grew up as a child, group shooting, and but that was not what we do now. A group like shooting a BB gun or a pellet gun at
Mhm.
cans or squirrels or whatever. But what we do now in the competition space, it is the funny part is the insurance for one of these events is actually less than an insurance for a CrossFit competition
Oh,
because
wow.
it's safer. Yeah, it's actually crazy because I actually asked the question. I was like, man, your insurance has got to be so high. And he's like, no, it's cheaper than a CrossFit competition
Mhm.
because it's really safe. Because a lot of us, I brought in a lot of subject matter experts when I decided to start because that's my personality. And I said, hey, I want you to teach me everything from the ground up, act like I'm a moron, and teach you from the ground up on how to manipulate something safely. And I think misconceptions in our society are this is dangerous. I don't want to be involved in this, and no one should have these. When in actuality, I think if people stepped out of their echo chamber and thought, oh, well, let me learn something new. Let me learn in a safe environment. Let me learn a safe way to operate something. Their mindset might change. It may not, and that's okay. But they might be like, oh, yeah, I can see how this is fun. As a good example, I have a gentleman who trains with me all the time and wasn't a huge firearm advocate in the beginning, and he may not still be. But I was like, he asked me, he goes, hey, I would love if you could teach me how to shoot and how to safely operate one in case I
Mhm.
need to. And I was like, absolutely, we're going to spend a whole day doing this, and it's going to be we're going to have a blast, and we're going to learn perfectly how to do everything. So we spent a day doing it, and by the end of it, he loved it. He was like, this is enjoyable. He's come out and shot so many times with me. Now, I don't know his stance as an advocate when it comes to firearms, but at least he knows if he was in a situation where he had something in front of him, he can safely operate it without fear of hurting others around him or himself. And that's important to me.
Yeah, that 100%. Um, so you talked about being at the games. You briefly mentioned Olivia Kerstetter, who won the 14 to 15-year-old
Crushed
division.
it.
She definitely did. Um,
Yep.
so talk about that transition. I mean, I was there, and I remember looking over a couple times and seeing you coaching on the sideline. Talk about that transition from being an athlete to being a coach and being on that competition floor and not competing.
Oh man, I tell you what. First off the bat, hats off. If I had a hat, I'd use it. Hats off to all the coaches. Holy crap, coaching is emotionally draining, mentally draining, and physically exhausting. I would rather compete every day of the week other than coaching. It is so. You're like, I got to get up early. I got to be there early. Got to get my athlete ready. Like I go to bed late. And, you're always in the sun. Like you don't get to escape, right? Like like I don't think they allow coaches to get in the ice baths. Like, hey, I'm exhausted. I'm getting in the ice bath. Like, but yeah. So we actually had 3 athletes there actually under Grit. The one that most people know because she's like my younger sister is Olivia Kerstetter, who's been with me for 6-7 years. People are always like, well, she's your younger sister. Like, how do you know her? Like, why does a 15-year-old work out in your barn with you? Which is a good question. Her sister, who is 3 or 4 years older than her, competed at the games for 3 years. That was Ellie Kerstetter. She was a teenager for many years. And so when she showed up to work out with me years ago, 6-7 years ago, she just drug her younger sister along, Olivia, who at the time was 9. And that's why she's just been with me forever. So she started off with a PVC pipe with us, and now has progressed where she can snatch more than me. Whoop-de-law. But yeah. So anyways, we got Olivia. We had Logan Aldridge, adaptive division. Awesome, freaking awesome guy. And then we had another girl, Emily Meyer, who was also in the 14-15 age division, who did fantastic. She was top 10 also. And so yeah, we had a whole smothering of athletes. And so it was myself as a coach. We had Jill Glassnap, who is also my coach, was also a coach there. Who was also a business partner with me and also owns the affiliate I go to, Cobra Command CrossFit, down the road for me.
Yeah.
And then we had the other coaches pass we gave to a PT. So it was a really good team. Great week.
Yeah. So did you miss it? Did you miss?
I didn't miss it. I didn't miss it until they drugged me out on the floor and had me do a workout against Josh. Like at first you're like, I don't want to do that. Like that looks terrible. Like I don't want to run a mile and do 30 toes bar over and over again. But then you get out on the floor, you kind of like, this is fun. This is enjoyable. Will I ever go back? I don't think so. Not individually, probably. There's too many other opportunities for me right now that I have to spend time on. But it was enjoyable being out there with Josh in the fourth. That was fun.
Yeah. Did you? How do you think you would have done knowing the programming in the those 15 events? How do you think you would have done? I mean, it seemed like some of those workouts were, Jacob Heppner type workouts, in your wheelhouse.
Yeah. I mean, is this how would Jacob Heppner would have done if he's a boxer or if he was just CrossFitting the whole
You're
time?
just CrossFit,
Okay,
CrossFitting.
let's talk about the boxing one. If Jacob Heppner boxing showed up, okay, let me just lay this out for you real fast.
Okay.
Number one, because I don't lift, that run and clean ladder,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, bro, I wouldn't have finished even the fourth bar or the third bar.
Yeah.
The snatch, I wouldn't have even snatched the first bar. I would have probably lost a female snatch competition, to be honest. But I would have done probably, if I was training CrossFit wise. I don't usually like to guesstimate because the guys that went there deserve the spots
Sure.
they took.
Definitely. 100%.
I would have probably done pretty decent.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the workouts they look like a complete blast. They're like,
Yeah.
I think the most fun one that looked fun was the GHD D-ball over the hay bale because I'm from Kansas, and then pick up that yoke and run with it because I'm from Kansas. It just sounds awesome to me. So.
Exactly. You mentioned individually. Let's scenario here. If you had to put together a team, who would you win on that team?
I don't know. Are we going to win or are we going to have a good time?
Let's say both.
Okay, I mean, look, if we're going to win and have a good time, and I'm willing to skirt the rules, it's going to be me, Cole Sager, and Scott Panchik. And we're going to switch out and no one's going to know it halfway through the competition.
Yep.
Yeah.
No one's
legit.
Yep.
It'd be awesome. I don't know. Like, I haven't really thought about it too in depth. If an opportunity presents itself, I might consider it. But for right now, we got so many other things going on.
Sure.
I know team would be a lot less stressful and be a lot more fun.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys do that because there is a lot of expectations and stress on individual athletes. It's really high year over year. So
yeah. Well, you talk about so many other things going on. You mentioned grit. Talk about some of these other things you have going on. I mean, retirement, most people just kind of just hang out. No, not you. I mean, you're building you got a new house, built a new barn, you're boxing, grit performance. What else are you doing?
Yep. So we got a couple other companies. I'm also a co-owner of a nutrition company, Functional Eating, that I essentially what it was is my affiliate, Cobra Command, had a really good in-house nutrition program. Fantastic. And they just didn't have the reach outside the gym. And I was like, we should team up. Cause I have a reach outside this gym and we should make a good product. And that's what we did. And that's gone over fantastically well. We actually have, we recently signed Nate Ackerman, who was the fittest 16 to 17-year-old athlete. Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure he just crushed everybody in his division, I think.
He did.
Yeah. And then he just win every event or pretty close to it.
That's the thing is he didn't win any events. He was just top
That's right.
three.
You guys just posted about that yesterday or today, didn't you?
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we signed him, and he's a good kid. So I'm excited to see. It's from my perspective, like you see a lot of females, Mallory O'Brien, Emma Carey, who can do teenagers, crush it, and then level up within a year.
Yep.
We haven't seen a male do it yet, and that's partially because the male body, the puberty is just going to be so much bigger. The muscle mass is just bigger leaps and bounds there. So it will be cool if we can see Nate do that. I would think that'd be pretty sick if we can see, because the closest one we've had is Dallin. He was pretty close. But I'd love to see a teenager level up, 17 goes to 18 and immediately goes to the games. That would be cool. So hopefully we can help him get there because I know he needs to put some weight on, as we all do, or me, not so much. So that's one of the company's, Functional Eating. And then Olse, I call him Scotty, too hotty for his body. That's Scott Panchik. That's what I call Scott. He doesn't know that though. So Scotty, too hotty for his body, and I and a couple other guys own another company called Stream. And Stream is essentially a take on Zoom during COVID. COVID smacked us in the face. And we were all stuck using Zoom, right? Which was great. Zoom was great to run virtual classes for affiliates. But we kind of looked at it and thought, man, You had to like have a clock in the camera. You had to write the workout on the board. You had to like do all these things. It was kind of a pain. And I was like, man, what if we had something that literally was built for the fitness industry, not necessarily CrossFit, but the fitness industry that did all this under the hood, and that was Stream. And so we actually launched that, gosh, half a year ago. I can't remember the dates. And that's going over extremely well. And so we have some people on there that are running a lot of classes, and you can just join classes however you want. And so that's Stream. And then I have another app that's it's a social media marketing tool. It's not. We'll talk about it later. It's not like it's pretty exciting. I've been involved enough as an influencer and as a company owner that there's a disconnect between companies and influencers. So essentially we're creating a company that can link those two together and make it easier to deliver content back and forth. Because right now it's like you use a Google Drive. Like everyone hates Google Drive. And there's another company, but it got bought out by a larger company. That I have an NDA with them. And so we're going to be launching a really cool product in October. And so actually I'll probably reach out to you guys. We'll probably put something in Morning Chalk Up. So subscribe to Morning Chalk Up because they're going to have the first things first. That's my shout out for you.
Plug.
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug. Love it.
Shameless plug. Shameless plug. So so come October, we're going to have a really cool product ready because we're sprinting for that. And so I've been pretty busy with that. The whole team has. And so we'll put it in Morning Chalk Up. Be the first one to announce it. So it'll be cool.
Cool. Can't wait.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Okay, so here it is. Predictions for the fight. Give us your prediction. Ooh, let's hear it.
Okay, well, I'm a realist by heart, right? So I'm a realist. So obviously the tail of the tape, right? The tail of the tape is I'm obviously taller by like 2 inches. Maybe 1.5 inches, kind of depends on who rounds up or whatever. Reach wise, I've got him because of his God-given long forearms by 1.5 inches, something similar to my height ratio. I mean, not to blow up Josh's game, but we all know he's gonna be an inside fighter, right? He's gonna be a bulldog. Like, I mean, look, Josh has got the mentality of a steel trap, man. Like. He's gonna come into this fight looking to kill someone. That someone's me, guys. And so he's gonna be an inside fighter. We're looking at hooks and uppercuts probably. He'll throw some straights, but it probably will be a whole lot of let's get in tight because I've got longer arms, so I'm gonna be trying to keep him at bay, right? I think the ring size is still 22 by 22, so it's a regular ring size. It's not because they're gonna put half Thor and Eddie in it. They were gonna give him a mini ring, like let me just stand here and wall up on each other. So it's gonna be a regular size regulation ring. I don't know. So we are doing 16-ounce gloves, no headgear, and of course the ring protector pads, whatever the heck they call them. You tell I'm an expert in the field. I don't know. I think the nice part is I've sparred a lot. And at the end of it, usually when I go sparring, I usually pull in 2 or 3 people and we rotate every 2 rounds. So like hypothetically, I spar with you for 2 rounds, 3 minutes on, 1 minute off. I then spar with another guy for 2 rounds, then another guy for 2 rounds, and then I come back to you hypothetically.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys will be like, man, your conditioning is great. Like if you're going to be that great going to the fight, you're going to be perfectly fine. I'm like, yeah, it's true. But you have to understand, like Josh and I come from the same sport. We're both very well conditioned. And so what people need to realize is conditioning isn't going to be the ace of cards. It's not going to be like Jacob is so much more conditioned. That's not going to be a deciding factor. I mean, Josh has said it well, like in boxing, it only takes 1 punch, right? It just takes 1 mistake. I left my right hand low during a hook and I took one to the face and got knocked out. It just takes 1 punch. Unlike CrossFit, where it's like, I could train all year and Matt Frazier could make a mistake, but he could probably make those points back up over the CrossFit Games. We've seen him do it before.
Sure.
So it only takes 1 punch. I'm excited. It's gonna be a cool opportunity. I think from the outside looking in, what I'm most excited about is the idea of showing the CrossFit community that the pyramid of fitness, like at the top is sport. And most people look at that and think, oh, sport, like competing in the games. It's not what that was meant for. When that was created, it was meant to use your fitness in the gym and take it outside the gym and do something you're not used to. Like most people, unfortunately, are like, they measure their fitness by how many unbroken pull-ups they can do, or how fast their Fran is, or how long their Murph is. And that's fine and dandy, but like, take that fitness that you worked on and leave the gym with it. Go do a Spartan race, or go do an obstacle course race, or go try boxing out, or go do jujitsu, or go whatever. I think that's what people need to realize and do. And that's my hope and prayer, is what people realize is like, look, I'm not a CrossFitter. Neither is Josh. Like, people are like, oh, he's a SEAL. Yeah, but he didn't learn boxing, right?
Sure.
And so we're not boxers by trade. But look, let me show you what I can do in 6 months of taking my fitness and applying it to boxing, and let me show you what I can do. And now realize that and think to yourself, man, if Heppner can do that in 6 months, what can I do in 6 months? That's my kind of a hope and goal for people.
Yeah. So your point of prediction is?
I mean, I'm going to win.
Okay. All right.
Was that a question? Oh, was that a question?
I thought it was, but I don't know. You gave me a long answer, but it turned into I got what I needed.
We're here to win. We don't do anything not to win. So
cool. Well, hey, I appreciate you joining me this afternoon, and you heard it here. Again, get the fight. Watch these two legends go at it, and hopefully Jacob's prediction holds up. All right. Thanks a lot, Jacob.
Hopefully. Cool. Thanks.